folks. Welcome to week 4, where we will be talking about marketing and business strategies and finishing up with chapters 21 through 27. So let's start talking first about social media and something that Eric Qualman defined as social nomics. Social nomics, in a nutshell, is the economics of social media. In other words, how do you monetize or make money off of social media? Qualman asked this question and put out a very popular book about it back in 2009 and really kind of helped launch the commercial web 2.0 movement. Let me give you some brief history. Back in the late 90s and the early 2000s, you folks may remember a thing called the dot-com boom, which was followed by the dot-com bust. The technology was starting to get good enough where businesses could seriously think about e-commerce, putting their products on the internet, putting their products on the web. It just didn't quite work like anybody hoped, though. There's a couple reasons. First of all, consumers still weren't quite yet ready to trust the internet with their private information. They weren't yet ready to buy stuff online quite yet. The technology still wasn't completely there. You folks may remember back in the 90s when, it could take 20 minutes for a website to download. So the idea was really good, but the tech wasn't yet in place. However, by the time we got to the mid 2000s, then into the late 2000s, the World Wide Web was undergoing what was affectionately called a renaissance. If the internet and the World Wide Web of the 90s is kind of like Web 1.0, by the time we got to the mid to late 2000s, we kind of realized the web was now Web 2.0. And this is affectionately what we call it today. Web 2.0 now, things changed. Heck, you and I can create our own websites. We have broadband streaming at this point. We can now post videos online. We can do all kinds of stuff. And people were getting more and more used to the idea of buying things online. They were beginning to trust it more. We had better encryption, better security. And this renaissance in the World Wide Web became now known as Web 2.0. The term was coined at a web conference in the mid 2000s when everybody realized, it's better. Things are a lot better. And that allowed businesses to come back to the original dot-com idea of e-commerce. Qualman's book, I think I don't know if I have a picture of it. There he is. There's Eric Qualman. His book on social nomics, that, like I say, came out in 2009, spoke to the business community. Qualman is a businessman and a consultant, and they read that book and they listened. And largely because of that book, it encouraged a lot of corporations to just go for it and really truly become of the massive internet marketing, media, sales, manufacturing, distribution reality that we have today. So here's a little bit. Chris Shipley was the first person who coined the term Web 2.0 in 2004. There's another person named Del Daughtery at a conference around late 2004 or 2005 also used the term as well, and it was starting to get out there a lot more. And then, of course, Qualman's book really revolutionized everything, and pretty soon the idea of Web 2.0, social media, and social nomics is now obviously very well known in the business community. Some effects of social nomics: we see that a lot of formerly inefficient marketing and the need for links in the chain or middleman effects were cut out because of that. I can go direct to my consumers, my fan base, and so on. I can sell them directly. I can market to them directly, and so on. We start to see also a decline in hard copy sales as we go more digital. We have a lot more user-generated content as well as news. We've got 24/7 virtual access to information and content. And the barriers to entry are very low. You need internet connection, a computer, and for many of us, we can launch our own, publishing companies, record labels, production companies out of the comfort of our own home if we want to. So here's some Web 2.0 videos in the spotlight. This video explains Web 2.0 in a little bit more detail, as does this one. This video here actually talks about Web 3.0. Web 3.0, some people would say, is already here. If you want to enjoy that, just take the idea of your smart devices acting truly as your personal assistant, wired to all kinds of other smart devices, and all of them talking to each other about how best to serve us. Or another way to look at it is invade our privacy, and there's pros and cons about it, but you might enjoy this video on some of the tech coming. Some new trends in the publishing industry. When we talk about this idea of Web 2.0, it also has ushered in what economically Alvin Toffler describes as the third wave. The third wave is the information economy, and this digital and online media technology has brought really significant changes to kind of the old school industrial manufacturing second wave that predominated the economy, definitely in the United States in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and even into the 80s. So third wave innovations have created a lot of changes, many of them very positive, and some new revenue models. So when you look at the revenue produced from everything from self-publishing and micro-pricing models and apps and so on, we see it's really given a boost, especially to the artist who's acting as an entrepreneur, who now does not have to share so much of their revenue when they create their content, because they can put it out there themselves. And with the exception of some modest distribution fees from aggregators or print on demand, you're definitely keeping a greater share of the revenue from your sales. Protecting IP, of course, is going to continue to be a challenge for publishers of all media content. That's not going away. So some trends, if we look at the magazine industry, for example, magazines have always experimented with different ways to enchant the public and boost sales. The Aspen magazine, for example, going back to the 1960s, tried to be kind of outside of the box. This is a bad pun. By coming up with what they called a 3D magazine. It was a magazine about popular culture. And instead of talking about pop culture and articles, you actually, here's my bad pun about outside the box, you actually got in the mail as part of your magazine subscription a box that had all of the content that the magazine would talk about. So you get books, you get record albums, you get artwork, poetry, all kinds of fascinating things. And we see that trend revitalized today with different box publishers that will send you, for example, a themed book of the month along with, in your box subscription, all kinds of gifts or related merchandise. So we see experiments with this kind of thing still going on today. In mid-2010, the iPad had launched by this time, and we saw publishers all over the industry scrambling to figure out how to utilize the power of mobile devices and the new technology in a very effective way. We started to see a migration, too, of people transiting from reading typical hard copy products over to digital consumption of their entertainment media. So Wired magazine, which is owned by Condé Nast, was one of the first magazines to link up with Adobe to launch a digital version of the magazine on the iPad. And the platform that Adobe created really, since then, became the industry standard. In fact, as recently as in 2017, not too long ago, there was a conference of magazine publishers, arguing that Adobe, the thing that kind of saved them all, got them a digital presence that renewed a lot of their interest in their magazines, their publications, and helped boost their budgets. The irony now is they all feel like Adobe has kind of shackled them, and if only we could, find a new platform, we feel trapped by Adobe, and they're, so it's interesting how trends change in the industry. Publishers have also gone to design firms to help them come up with new concepts for books or ideas. IDEO is an international design firm that major publishers actually went to in search of new ideas for book products. So you folks might want to watch this short video which talks about some new book products coming out onto the market. Last thing I'll comment on before we end this video is Amanda Hocking. She's a self-published author. When she was 26, she used Amazon's CreateSpace, a print-on-demand, self-published 17 books and sold 600,000 copies. She made millions of dollars on her own, and then she was offered a traditional book publishing deal with St. Martin's Press. No surprise there. So her micro pricing model was very interesting. She was selling her digital books between $1 and $3 roughly. With her Kindle sales, she was getting 70% of that. So on her own, you can do the math very quickly, see she's made a couple $1,000,000 before her book deal with St. Martin's. Her pricing strategy was creative. Her books are young adult fiction, and so she kind of figured, how much would young people be willing to spend, let's say, on coffee at Starbucks or something like that, and she priced her digital books kind of in that neighborhood. Maybe a little bit low, but something kind of close to that. It worked very well. Here is a video on Amanda, if you'd like to watch that. She also talks about the process of self-publishing. She relates it also then to being traditionally published afterwards, and kind of a comparison of the two, which is very interesting. Okay, folks, I'm going to stop there. In our second video, we'll go on to talk next about mass collaborative projects in publishing. We'll take a look at social games, apps, and virtual goods, and we'll conclude our discussion talking about, for film and television, we'll also look at the webiseries and the webisode. So I'll see you in our next video. Okay, bye-bye.